Okay, I'm going to share with you here today my experiences that I've had in my life and the knowledge and the wisdom that I've gained from these experiences. This isn't small fry stuff. This is the reality and the construct of life. But there's something I need to share with you that's very, very important. I know about the illusion, I know about the lies being imposed on the human race, and I'm here to expose them, and I will. What we've been seeing lately with the earthquakes and the tidal wave is just a taste of things to come. I'm telling you, life is going to change on this planet dramatically, and I haven't even got to the real big stuff yet, because this is so important. This is what people don't know. I'm giving you the truth, the hidden truth. This is underneath the Vatican here. Who's running the church? Seriously. Right? This is powerful stuff. To know that you're infinite, to know that you're eternal, this is the core to self-empowerment. This is understanding that nothing has it over you anymore. I don't want you to know this. I don't want you to know how powerful you are. Be the sovereign beings that you are free. That is reality. Because it's got to start in here, right? You're free in here first, then it starts to manifest around there, you outside of you. I'm free. Are you beginning to grasp the magnitude of what's been shared here today?
George is just an ordinary bloke. He's the guy who kind of lived next door. Now, he's had some really extraordinary experiences. Stuff that it's just wild. It's crazy. I mean, it's totally insane, some of the things he says. You just can't reconcile with it. I haven't met ETs and been abducted and all these things he talks about. But it's his truth. I can't say it's correct. I've never had that experience, but he walks his talk. He really does. You'll see he's totally genuine. He's not making this up. Now, he may be deluded, right? But he's not making it up. Some of the information today, because I believe it's probably the universal truth today you're going to get. I'll let him explain that. It may confront some of your beliefs. What's a belief? It's a lie. B-E-L-I-E-F. They're lies and conditionings that we've all been exposed to over many, many years. His model fits everything into it. Conversely, it's very confronting for many because most of the systems and doctrines and religions and paradigms that we've been listening and conditioned to are externalizing. Even the ones we think are internalizing, he's going to tell you are externalizing. And that's pretty confronting. It was for me, and it will be for you guys as well. So I just want you to be open-minded. If it gets too much and you start freaking out, we've had a few people freak out in some of these seminars and just start screaming. Just ask you to control yourself. You get a chance to scream in question time. Okay. My wife, who's up the back, the lovely Trina, who started Enlightened Events, started the company with answers to the big questions. And I think today you're going to get the answers to the big questions. She thinks I'm the second most craziest person in the world. And George is the most craziest. The other day she asked our 9-year-old daughter, is George crazy? Amber looked at her and said, Mum, he's not crazy, he's awesome. I give you the awesome George Kavassilas.
Welcome everybody. I want to first of all thank you for making such a concerted effort to make the distance and be here today. Hasn't been easy with the way the weather's been as well. So I heard Jason just talking about people who have travelled. Where have you travelled from? May I see some hands of people who have travelled here today? Okay, I see familiar faces there from the Central Coast who have come again. Thank you very much. That is awesome. Yep, there's some more. Yeah, wonderful. Bowral, really? Awesome. Southern Tablelands. Southern Highlands, that's it. Yep. Canberra. I lived there for 3.5 years. Awesome. Yeah, I lived in Duffy. I lived in Gilmore. Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Canberra's a beautiful place. I loved it because you're near the coast and you're near the mountains, and it's just the lifestyle there is fantastic. Just there's a bit of sterility to the social side of things there, but apart from that, the physical environment's magnificent. Yes. Where? Goulburn. So we've got a lot of people that come up from the south. Wow. So again, I just want to give my thanks because, I travel around a lot, and so I do understand how difficult it is to make the effort to be here. So thank you once again. It's very much appreciated. Okay, I'm going to share with you here today my experiences that I've had in my life and the knowledge and the wisdom that I've gained from these experiences. They are out of the ordinary, because I say I'm just an everyday guy that's had a life of extraordinary experiences. And they are extraordinary. It's taken me quite a long time to process them within myself and get to a point within myself that I can actually express myself in a reasonable way, because I had to deal with a lot of issues, because I was affected emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and physically, because of a result of these experiences that I've been having. And it's been a very, very, very challenging time in my life. And I always knew deep down inside that I was having these experiences for a reason. And like I said, it's taken me a while to reconcile that. And that reconciliation has led to me now feeling very at peace within myself. I actually feel happy and joyous and comfortable. As horrendous and horrific some of these experiences were, I actually am grateful that I had them, as crazy as that might sound on one level. And I actually got to the point where I thanked all the beings that were quite negative towards me for doing what they did to me, because I know I wouldn't be the man I am without having had these experiences. I wouldn't have the understanding of life that I have without these experiences. And it also gives me, in a sense, the authority, for want of a better term, to be able to get up and say to everybody, hey, this is what I've discovered as what's going on. So with everything that I'm going to share with you here today, I'm going to say to you, you don't have to accept anything I share, because I honour everybody's journey. So I ask that you consider what I say. I'll be speaking at times in the affirmative, as though that's how it is, because obviously for me that's how it is. But with the majority of the experiences that I had and the relationships and interactions that I've had with beings from way beyond this veil, and even the cosmic veil that we are inside of, there is an understanding in the universe of the way things are. Because what is truth? Truth, I'll give you my definition of what truth is. To me, truth is simply just the way things are. It's that simple. And people like to get all heady and technical about things and complicate things. And people say, oh, but all truth is relative. So I'll share this with you. Are we not all in this room today, this aspect of ourselves incarnate on Mother Earth, having this interaction today? Is that not the same for all of us? So is that a relative truth, or is that universal fact? The fact that you are incarnate on Mother Earth today, and the fact that the Earth revolves around the sun, is that a relative truth, or is that a universal fact? See? These are universal facts. But the people who like to propagate these ideas that all truth is relative and it comes down to the perception of the individual, they like to do that because it never allows us to really grasp anything tangible in life. It forever leaves us floating in this sea of uncertainty. And if you are going to be properly centered, and if you are going to activate that inner fortitude, your Camelot, your castle, your Solomon's temple within you, then you need to be solid. You need to be grounded. You need to be strong internally. So you must have things that are tangible within you, not just floating in this sea of uncertainty. So what I'm going to share with you here today might push a few boundaries, which I totally understand and accept, because I had mine pushed throughout my life with all my experiences. And I still do. I still do. That journey continues. And so I'll begin with this experience that I had in 2003, because for me, it was the most major experience that I had, and it's the one that really activated my awareness more than anything. It was profound. And I got to take a journey up through the dimensions of our universe. So that's just to give you the summary of it. And it's really profound to say that. And I get people who say, well, who do you think you are? What gave you the right to have that journey? How come I don't get to have that journey? So people come at it from that perspective as well. I'm not saying that you people in this room are doing it, but I get that from people. You know, I do, unfortunately. So whatever we're experiencing in our lives is of our own making. It's what I chose in this life. And with that experience, with that journey, I realised came a sense of obligation and responsibility, that everything I experienced was for a reason. And the same with you. Everything that you experience is for a reason. Nothing happens just happenstance, or whatever that word is, or out of that theory we call chaos. There is purpose and intent for everything that occurs in our lives, everything that exists in this universe, because everything in this universe is by design. Everything. It's just the magnitude of the processing of the consciousness and the genius behind having life bounce around and interact and coordinate the way it does, even when you look out at nature in the wild and you think, well, that's got to be chaotic. No, that's actually by design. It's just the magnitude of the consciousness required to do that is so great we can't comprehend it. So we just flob it off as it's chaotic, because there's no way we can do it. We don't have the capacity to do it at this level of awareness. So people can't cope, so they've got to put it down. They've got to, you know, just dismiss it. They can't give it acknowledgement. And that's ego, having issues with that. And so in 2003, I was visited by what I consider my galactic family. Because in reality, we're all ETs, by the way. And I'll get more into that. You'll understand better that statement as we go further on into the day. And when they visited me, I knew exactly who they were instantaneously. Because you hear a lot about people who get contacted by ETs that, you know, they get showered with love and with light, and the ETs turn up and they say, oh, we're your long lost brother or sister, or we're your family from this planetary system. And I've experienced those type of beings too, but they weren't, to me, my true family. There was something wasn't right with that process. So when my true galactic family turned up, instantly I knew who it was, just like my beloved wife Cynthia walking into the room. The moment she walks into the room, she doesn't have to carry on like that, does she? So for you, when your loved ones walk into the room, or your brother or your sister, when they walk into the room, they don't have to carry on like that, do they? You just know who they are, right? It's simple, isn't it? It's the old thing, keep it simple. magical saying, that one. Very, very empowering saying, that one, if you really take it into consideration deeply. And so they picked me up on a small shuttlecraft, and I was taken to a much larger craft towards the Sirius star system. And that journey in itself was quite fun, because I was sitting on a little bench seat and I had two of my friends sitting on the other bench seat, and the reality was streaming past. Just like in those sci-fi movies. I remember putting my hand actually in that stream because we were travelling very, very fast. And it tingled, and I brought my hand out. My hand was just tingling for a little while. And that was fun. These are the bits that I remember, because I don't have full recall of every moment of that experience. And then when we got onto the larger ship, I remember the reunion. It was fantastic. It was just fantastic. There was a lot of love, and there were many different races there. And when we got to the point of actually going through the process that I need to go through, I met with a being in there that I hadn't seen for a very long time. He's like a brother to me. We're both from Sirius, and he was like a brother. Well, he is my brother on Sirius. He's a beautiful being. And the way he expressed himself in that ship, the way all the beings express themselves in that ship, because you can express yourself in different ways when you're interacting from the higher realms, is they're all human looking, like us, and they all wore these long gowns, beige and brown coloured gowns. And the reason they did that, and the ship was all very neutral, because what you do is you can manifest a ship very quickly for whatever it is you want to do in that moment with the consciousness. So these are not craft that are manufactured in a factory or built with nuts and bolts. These are craft that are manifested with intention. And the reason they did that was because everything needed to be very neutral. So my ego as George wasn't stimulated too much. It was very important that the main point of focus was my experience that I was about to have with the universe. So everything gets taken into consideration. And before I go any further with this experience, I'm going to divert just a little bit, because I just want to go through a couple of images first. We're all at this stage in our journey now where we realise that something is going on here. We realise that our hearts are crying out. I see it all over the planet. Our hearts are crying out for reality, for truth, because we've been brought up in our cultures to see life in a certain way. If you grow up in a different culture other than the Australian culture, you will have other influences through cultural programming, through spiritual programming, through cultural traditions. And so we're raised to see and view life in a particular perspective, depending on where you grow up on a planetary system. And I see all over the world people's hearts crying out, because that programming is mostly on the mental level. And it's affecting us mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And I know this because these are the layers within my mind that I had to get through for my journey as well. And so I see hearts crying out for the truth, getting beyond this mental situation that's happening on the planet at the moment, this mental programming. And we know that something's going on here. Even people that I speak to, I had this wonderful conversation with a gentleman on the Central Coast, because we went and visited the Egyptian hieroglyphs there on the Central Coast. And he's very connected to nature. And he said to me, he can feel it in nature all around him, that things are changing, even in the natural kingdom. So people who are very connected to nature can feel it, that it's not just the human race that is changing, that our actual environment is changing. So the questions to begin to ask, and I'm sorry I've diverted from that experience with my journey into the universe, but probably it's best to preface with what I'm sharing with you now, and then I'll get back into it. Is why have we chosen to incarnate on Mother Earth now? So why this planet and why now? And these are the questions that I urge yourself to begin to ask. Why? Why am I here? And why have I chosen this particular point in time to be on this planet? This part of you. Why aren't you incarnated somewhere else? You are, but I'm talking about this part of you. Why is this part of you not incarnated somewhere else? So why Mother Earth? They're the questions to begin to ask yourselves in your contemplations, in your meditations, in your whatever processes you use. Because we've all heard of the main calendar, and we can all feel that something's afoot with Mother Earth. Something's going on. And it's called the Great Shift of the Ages. And it's in every culture, whether it's Aztec, whether it's Mayan, whether it's Egyptian, whether it's Vedic, whether it's whatever. We know it's in every single culture. Anybody does any form of research whatsoever, you'll see it there in every culture, that at this point in time in life, something was going to happen globally. And that's why I've got that image there, because my understanding is that Mother Earth is about to give birth to a new race of life that has never existed in the universe before, a new way of life. That's my understanding. And it's not just an understanding, it's actually a knowing. And it's a knowing of who Mother Earth is as well. Who is this? Why do we call it Mother Earth? Why do all the races all around the world call her Mother Earth? Simply because all these peoples know that she's a woman. And that's understanding that every planet has its own consciousness, its own individual being. Every star is its own consciousness, its own individual being. Every tree, every rock, everything in life is its own consciousness. Sure, there's a collective underlying group consciousnesses and what have you. But all those stars and planets out there, they're all individual beings. So who is this planet that we're incarnated on? Who is she? And she expresses herself in so many ways. And there's one of them, like a ballerina. It's magnificent. She does give us messages. She pops up around the place. And here's another concept of a pregnant Mother Earth giving birth. So this concept is in a lot of people's understandings. These images I just grabbed because they get my attention. And they're just drawn. I didn't ask somebody to draw this. These are people who already know within themselves that Mother Earth is about to give birth. Here's another one. And here we have the creation of life and the vortex of life in the womb there. So I'm just sharing a few images to get that understanding of the fact that we're on a planet whose consciousness is feminine to begin with. And that's why everyone calls her Mother Earth. And the idea and the understanding that she's about to give birth. And that I want you to realise that it's not just George who has this knowing and understanding, that this is well known. And when I got beyond the veil, the earthly veil, and then beyond the cosmic veil, and got to extraterrestrials and the rest of universal life, who live in freedom and understanding, then they all know this. Everyone's talking about it. It's nothing new to them, and they're all involved in the process here. So I want you to understand the extent and the magnitude of where I'm coming from. This great lady we call Mother Earth. Now, I'm biased, okay? Because you know when you see an image of the Earth, you always see the US or You know, the Americas usually. I'm going to go, well, if I'm going to travel the world and do talks, I'm going to put good old Aussie there. Thank you very much. Right? Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Yeah. Why not? Right? Why not? Absolutely. Why do we always get left out of the picture? Actually more significant than anyone would want to admit. There's more going on here in Australia than a lot of people understand. Yeah. So I've got this image up. Now this isn't an animated image, this is actually a Hubble photo of a galaxy. And I want you just to begin to contemplate that that is made up of billions upon billions upon billions of stars. That's what you see right there. It's a great photo, that, because it gives you perspective. This is what I'm going to try to do here now, is expand your awareness, take you out of that box that we have down here, and let's go cosmic. Let's start looking at things from a much larger perspective. Because it's like you can't see the forest for the trees. You know that saying? When you're walking through the bush, what we call the bush, it's hard to work out where you're going. But if you can climb up onto a ridge and a peak and look out over the whole forest or the bush, then you can see exactly where's where, who's who, what's what. So it's having that much larger perspective. Changes everything. So it's important to get our awareness and go cosmic with it. Very, very important that we do that. And so if you contemplate the fact that there's billions upon billions of stars in that one galaxy alone, imagine how many planetary systems there are in there. Just begin to try and imagine how many planetary systems we're talking about in a single galaxy. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And it's really amazing how we don't go through this simple process I'm going through with you in school. Isn't it simple? Right? Got a photo of the galaxy. All right, let's start contemplating a galaxy. Let's start contemplating the magnitude of life. Let's start getting a feel for how big the cosmos is. Okay? Because you can imagine how many planetary systems there are in there. Trillions. And how much life there is in there. And then you see all these little specks everywhere here? See all these little dots? They're not stars. They're galaxies. Each speck is another one of these things. And you know what we're looking at? One narrow, tiny little slot. Because you've got to take this and you've got to go 360 with it. So begin to get a grasp for the magnitude of the cosmos. And then you have some person, reckons they're really highly qualified, got all these little letters after their names, and come out with theories that we're all alone in the universe. I mean, that in itself is deluded. The moment you begin to contemplate the vastness of the cosmos, instantly, any person with any logic at all, any rationality at all, will tell you straight away, there is no possible way we could be alone in all of that. So when people say, George, I think you're a little bit crazy because you're talking about ETs here. And I just say to them, that's perfectly normal. I said, are you going to tell me that we're the only ones that exist? I said, that's deluded. That's crazy and that's insane. And you've got to ask yourself, why are you thinking that way? Where did I get the idea that we're all alone in the universe? Where did I get that idea from? It's insanity. It's total insanity. Where did I get the idea that the forefront of human civilization is sending a probe to Mars? And maybe the possibility of finding some sort of bacterial life is the forefront of human evolution. Because that is a lie and that is insanity. Because throughout history, and the proof is everywhere, throughout history, we have been in contact with extraterrestrial races. It's everywhere. It's all around us. But why are people brainwashed and their awareness shrunk down to the size of a pea to think that we're the only ones? And I'll give you an analogy here. Let me give you an analogy. We are told that in ancient times people thought the world was flat. That's what we're taught, right? Yeah, it's something we're all taught. Well, guess what? The reality is, right, not what we're taught, but the reality, separate from what we are being taught and told, is that it was a tiny little group living in an area that we call Europe. And it was a tiny group that thought that. The rest of the world knew the world was round. The rest of the world knew all about extraterrestrial life, and the rest of the world knew even how the solar system was structured. Now, the evidence for that is everywhere. But how is it that in our society today, we get this idea that gets propagated that the world was flat? And everybody thought that. But it's not true. It was just this tiny little group that thought that. And it just happens to be this group that has spread its tentacles all over the world. So guess what? Who gets to write history in our societies? It's this group. So from just giving you that simple analogy, you get to realise just how our minds get programmed so easily. It's amazing. It's amazing what has happened to the human race. And when someone like me has travelled these shores and says, what you're saying to us isn't what's reality, when someone like me gets up and starts talking and telling people, you've got to expand your awareness because things are not what they seem, they don't like it. But let them not like it. They cannot like it till the cows come home, and they cannot like it till beyond the day the cows come home. Because truth will always be the truth, no matter how many layers upon layer of BS they want to put over the top of it. Our hearts know deep down inside, our hearts are crying out for what is real. They're crying out, and we're hearing that cry all over the world. And there's some fantastic people that are getting up and sharing their wisdom. And it won't be long before many of you in this room will be doing it. When that shift occurs on this planet, it's already happening, but when it kicks into a much grander scale, you watch. You watch how many of you are going to spring into action. Not because I say so, it's just because I've got a good understanding of what's about to happen in this world. You know, because I get people who are really proficient at the intellectual step-toe. Like, their intellectual muscle is profound, right? No, I always acknowledge and respect. You've got to give people credit where it's due, right? Intellectually, man, you know, I could have a professor and just demolish me on harmonics if he wanted to. I get people that give me a hard time because of the way I use the Greek language, for example. But I do it so simplistically, and I do it from my upbringing, and I do it from my life's experiences. So if I want to call this a tutu, and this has been a tutu all my life, then I'll call it a tutu. It's just a label. Because it doesn't matter if you're from France, won't you have a different set of letters and a different way of labelling this to if you're English or German or Spanish? You've got to realise, and when it comes to numbers too, numbers, what are numbers? People say maths is a defining language and it's universal language and it's everything. Is it? Is it really? I ask you, is it really? Because I can measure the distance across the stage here. We can measure it in millimetres, we can measure it in centimetres, we can measure it in inches. You can measure it in any kind of set of numbers you like. But that distance will always be that distance. See, Numbers is a language, and all it is a quantifiable language. Numbers is a quantifiable language. Mathematics is a quantifiable language. It's for the people who are not into artistic expression of life. They need hard facts. They need to crunch numbers. That's the way they are as a being. That's their language. That's how they see life, through numbers. But you've got to realise numbers are labels. That's reality. That thing will always be. Doesn't matter what set of numbers you apply to it, it will always be as it is. It's just numbers is a quantifiable language. It's for people who have to quantify things. It's just the way they are. It's the way they work. There's nothing wrong with that. But they just like to say that their world and their paradigm is the be-all and end-all of life, and it's not. Because I know life exists beyond mathematical construct, and that just does their head in, totally. And that's where we're heading. Oh, that's where I'm heading. It's up to you where you go. But I know that's where I'm going. Because I've already experienced myself beyond mathematical construct in this lifetime. So I know it's real. Some more photos from the Hubble. Really, the cosmos is an amazing place. It really is. It's so big, and everything that goes on out there. Well, that's a being expressing itself. It's a being that's becoming. So after my little rant and rave, I'll get back to that experience in 2003. Because what they did is they facilitated an experience for me. Now, this was preordained. Like, before I incarnated, we organised that at that point in time in my life, they will come and pay me a visit. So I'm just giving you the background here. It's not just a bunch of ETs just decided, oh, let's go and visit George. Okay? This was organised with my galactic family before I incarnated. Because what you have standing here before you is George, the personality. The majority of my construct here comes from the blue star of Sirius. And not a planet revolving around the star, but the star itself. Okay? We are a planet on a higher level of vibration, so from down here you view it as a body of light. And I know some scientific minds are going crazy with that idea. But you have different makeup. The way a body of light chooses to express itself will then determine its chemical and physical construct and makeup. And the combustional processes, okay, it will go through to create itself as a body of light down here on this level. That's why you have stars with different makeups. Different set of gases, different set of compounds, elements, whatever. Just like we express ourselves in different ways. We have different blood types, we have different genetics, we have different... It's the same. Because from higher levels you have the intention of a consciousness that wishes to express itself. And so what they were going to do was look after my body, to maintain my body, because so much of me was coming out of the body. Everything that animates this body into being was going to come out. And like before, I've astro-travelled, I've travelled the ethers, right? But this was different. This was all of me was coming out of this body. So it would have just died. So what they did, without the use of technology, with a soul level contract that I had with them, they, with their life force, were able to maintain my body, just to keep it going. So I could have this experience. I can come out of my body and I could travel the universe. And that's what I did. And I first came out of my body and my brother said to me, take it easy. Just accustom yourself to that way of being again, because you haven't done it for a very long time. And so I did. I hung out in that room, but I could feel the pull of the universe, because everything works by the law of attraction. And that's where scientists have an issue, you know, gravity. What's gravity? They're scratching their heads and trying to work out what gravity is, right? It's really simple. It's the law of attraction, right? You've all gravitated to Mother Earth, your soul, your essence, whatever you want to call it. You've all gravitated here to incarnate here. That's all it is. It's the law of attraction. You understand it from that perspective? Whole paradigm opens up. And so all of a sudden he said, right, go. And I was gone out of there in an instant. And as I was travelling up, I just saw a whole cosmic paradigm. And then it just started shrinking and shrinking and shrinking into the galaxy. And then you got billions and billions of galaxies all just shrinking, 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 shrinking into a tiny vortex of light. This whole cosmic paradigm we were in ended up being a tiny little vortex of light. And one little spin of that, which happens in an instant on that level of consciousness, is eons upon eons upon eons of time. Absolutely incredible. Because the reverse, I had to project an aspect of me down into that vortex of light, and then once you get inside of it, it just opens up to a cosmic paradigm. Absolutely incredible. And so I travelled up through the dimensions of our universe, and I got to the boundaries of our universe. Yes, our universe is a finite existence. It's a finite expression. It's in the name. Universe. One verse. One expression of life. And I had this incredible exchange with a being that is this universe, the creator of this universe, the being that people call God. And the most amazing thing, yeah, I talk to God. Wow, isn't that nuts, eh? It's just that everybody can do this. It's nothing abnormal because everyone else in the universe does it. Again, it's our programming and our conditioning here, because talk to God, you're crazy. No, I spoke to the creator of this universe, the consciousness that is this whole entire universe that we are inside of. That's what I communicated with, and that's what you're all connected to intimately. That's what all life in this universe is intimately connected to, totally one with. So you can call it God, you can call it whatever you like. I'll just call it the creator of this universe. And it was the first being to tell me, hey, George. Of course it wasn't George on that level. I was just pure energy, right? I was my I am presence. But I'm just giving you some sort of analogies here. And we didn't talk. It was energetic exchange. That you exist infinitely beyond this level of existence. And I went, wow, that's awesome. And then we both projected our attention and awareness outside this universe. And that's what I saw outside this universe. This is what I call the omniverse. This is a made-up graphic. Obviously, you can't take photos of the omniverse. And I got a friend to make it up for me. And this is what I saw. And each one of those dots is a universe. That was amazing in that moment, because it's remembrance. I wasn't learning anything new. In that moment, I was going through a process of remembering. And this universe we're inside of is the only one that is the construct of light. That was amazing. Because you hear, you go up to the light of God, right? You're at the top. You're up top near God, the light of God. Does life exist beyond God? Yes, it does. I found out for myself firsthand. Don't care what anyone says. Any religious people be freaking out right now. And a priest in here go, ha, how arrogant of you to say that. How dare you say anything like that? God is everything. Is that right? I wonder which God they're speaking to. We'll get into that later as well. Because I know exactly where all these gods fit. Because when you take this journey, like I said, you come out of the forest, you get to see exactly where everything fits. Who's who, what's what. Now, I don't have total recall of that journey, because I got hammered when I got back. But what I will share with you is what I can share with you. And it's a fair bit. It really is. quite a bit. So, this is the magic that I'm going to share with you now. I can't tell you what to do. Like I said, I'll speak in the affirmative, but I don't quite mean it that way, if you get what I mean. But if you want to reconnect with your true sovereignty, with your true essence, then see how this feels, what I'm about to share with you. How about that? Every single one of those dots out there is you. Each one of those dots is you. Everyone on this planet is one of those dots out there. Just think about that for a moment. What am I actually saying here? I'm saying that you have your own universe and you are equal with God, the creator of this universe, on the same level of existence. Because all these other universes are a different construct, they're a different expression. This one is light. This one is light. Because on this universal level, we're all hanging out together, right? As universes, gods, creators. We've all got our own God thing going on. We're all creators on a universal level. And I've got my universe, you got your universe, and we all express ourselves in a different way, right? So, therefore, the construct of each one of our universe is different. And then this universe decided to express itself in the construct that we call light. And we went, wow, now that's cool. That is really cool. Can I have some of that? I want me some of that. I want to learn how to be like that. That is really cool. And this is what we do. We go inside one another and we learn how to be like one another. That's the amazing thing. We are all universes. And so if you take one little dot there like that, and let's say that is this universe here, all of us sent a little spark of ourselves and we all streamed inside this universe here to learn the construct of light, to become a universal creator of love and light. That is amazing. When I rediscovered that, I just went, yeah. And it's amazing how many people, I get feedback from all over the world, how many people resonate with this. They feel it. They have like this remembrance inside of themselves. They go, George, that feels good to me. That feels, I feel it. Okay? So we're talking way beyond the mind now, right? This is going to make the mind hurt. This is going to make the ego struggle. We're talking about into your heart, right? Into the core and the essence of your being, because that's where the memory of this is, right? And it's in people, and they're getting it. And so we go inside one another and we learn the expression and the construct of each other. That's what we do. And I rediscovered that we are infinite. And that's another big piece, another magic key to life. You are infinite. Do you know what that means? Nothing exists beyond me. Therefore, nothing exists beyond you, or you, or you. That piece of knowing right there, if you get it, like truly get it, it's game over. That means nothing can come in over the top of you anymore and control you. That means you flow with the unfoldment of life everywhere you go. And you know that you are infinite in nature. And you are no longer going to be controlled. That is one of the most important pieces to empowerment ever. To contemplate what it truly means to be infinite, eternal. You always have been, and you always will be. You haven't been born or spawned out of some God consciousness. We have always existed. Life is infinite. Because the moment you say or consider the prospect of being born or spawned out of some God consciousness, you put a finite existence on life. And some entity called God is everything. I mean, just think about it for a moment. What a lonely existence it would be on that level of existence. Being the only one. If you were that God. Just contemplate that for a moment. People say, George, we are all God. God is the all. I'll say, that is true. If you have that label you want to use for all of us collectively, existing for infinitely and eternally, that's fine. But to say that, tell me what else your understanding is. Because people will say that, but then let's have a go at what more you want to share with me about that. Let's have a really good look at your understanding of what that means. Just like we have a lot of New Age stuff going on, your God self. They will honour your God self. They'll tell you that. We honour your God self. But it always comes down to more than just these statements. Because at the end of it all, you'll always get the fact that you've got to use some other entity's energy to bring it in and do the work for you. So again, you've got to look at the whole thing, not just a few words that get thrown around. That's big, to understand that you're eternal. And that's just to summarise what I was just sharing with you. Nothing exists beyond you. Nothing. You're eternal. It's so empowering. And then, once you really know that other one, this one gets challenging. Because, like the great man Greg Braden said, walking between the worlds. And I really, really, really understand that. But what I'm just shared with you here, just this short little while, you're not only walking between worlds, you're walking between galaxies. And you're not only walking between galaxies, you're walking between dimensions. And you're not only walking between dimensions, you're now walking between universes. Are you beginning to grasp the magnitude of what's been shared here today? This isn't small fry stuff. This is the reality and the construct of life. And when we go back to this here, the omniverse, that is a part of something else, which is a part of something else, which is a part of something else, which is a part of something else, infinitely. And when you go into the atom, is a part of something else, which is a part of something else, infinitely inwards as well. So you go that way and that way, infinitely from where you are. No end, no beginning. So when some entity wants to stand up and say, I'm God and I'm the creator of all things, when you have this understanding behind you, you get to really question it. You get to really question it. Because don't worry about this level of awareness, because, you know, I'm still at kindergarten here with all of this, but when you get out there, and even soon, when our awareness changes on this level, some entity wants to come and play God, you take it on. You take it on. You take that entity on. You go, you God, really, of all life that ever existed anywhere, in all of creation, eternally, forever, you control all of that. You're responsible for all of that. Is that right? Because your awareness will go above where its ego claiming that exists. You go, mate, you're just sitting at the top of the fourth dimension. Get over it. Because that's where they're coming from. I'll explain that in a minute. That's the model I'm going to present for you here today. This is what I experienced as the model of the universe. People have different models here on this planet, a lot of different models. A lot of extraterrestrial races have different models of the universe. But the one that I'm sharing with you, the overwhelming majority by far, in the whole of the entire universe, understands it like this. Because you hear 24-dimensional beings, you hear 15th dimensional Dracos, you hear about 8th dimensional entities, and I'm here to tell you that they all fit down in here. I'll get to that further. We enter this universe on this level here. Now, I'll just add the numbers for people who like numbers, okay? So up here we have the consciousness, which is whole and sanctified of the universe. No division at all. Because we are in a light-based universe. Light. Okay. Waveform. Frequency. Vibration. Sorry, I'll get out of that way. Vibration. Vibration. Frequency, sound, light. As long as you have light, and it comes in many forms, light, you actually have vibration, you have frequency, you have sound. Therefore, you have duality. And when you're up in the higher dimensions, up around here, it's all light, different frequencies of light, but it's still duality. People think the earth plane is where duality is, and everything outside of here is all harmony and oneness. The versions of life up here, like this realm here, this is where heaven begins. Here. Down here on the 5th. That's the lowest vibratory realm of heaven. Even the vibrations here in the 4th dimension, the love and the light that people experience here is so wondrous compared to this reality. So wondrous. That's why people fall for that trap. I'm talking about light that is so fine, but it's still light. When you get up here, you're going to remember this for yourselves. This is the good thing about, this is what makes my life easy. I don't mind getting up here and telling you this. I wouldn't dare get up here and tell you something that wasn't true. I have my family to consider. I have my wife to consider. I have 2 teenage boys. Why would I get up here and tell a story that wasn't true? I know that this truth is inside everybody. And I say, don't take my word for it, because the veil is lifting. And the veil is lifting very quickly. And there's multitudes on the planet that already know this. I get it in my emails. So you've got to understand just how many people already know this. It's nothing new. And when the veil lifts, you're going to know for yourselves. That's why I'm happy saying it and sharing it. It's easy. Telling the truth is easy. Explaining how things are is easy. It's the ones that tell the lies. They're the ones that have got to convince you. See? I'll say to you, take it or leave it. But one day you're going to remember it. It's easy. We entered the universe on this level. And we integrated and calibrated our essence. When you enter a reality, a domain, you've got to calibrate yourself with that reality first. You've got to acclimatise yourself, to use another word, rather than calibrate. Might be a bit technical, okay? So that's what you do. And so our I am presence, or I like to call it my soul. I'm going to call it my soul. People think soul is down in these levels here. They have different models, right? But I'm going to call my I am and my soul the same thing, because that's how I experience my essence. And I call it the nursery of the souls, because we come in here and we calibrate ourselves, and this is where you become one and merge one with this universe, with the creator of this universe. And you have this internal seed planted, which is a fractal of the whole universe. And that's what we call the Christ Center, the Krishna Center, the Buddha Center, the Quetzalcoatl Center, the Rainbow Serpent Center, whatever label you want to use, it all means the same thing. The Christ Sophia Center, whatever label you want to use, it's all the same thing. It's a seed of universal consciousness. And so once we acclimatised ourselves there, we popped down into there. And we started exploring this universe. And we're just here, we're pure energy still, just pure energy. Just going around as pure energy, pure I am. And then once we exhausted all possibilities and outcome there, we then pop down. And here is where form begins. The first expressions of form. Galactic consciousness. Cosmic consciousness. And I want to share with you that each one of you is a galaxy as well. And you are, and you will remember. I'm not programming you here. You're going to remember, because it's the way things are. You're all galaxies. Billions and billions and billions of galaxies out there. Who are all these beings? Right? And then you come down here and you've got embodiments, like individual embodiments like this sort of form here on these levels as well, throughout the universe. And we start spreading ourselves out. Then we pop down. Once all possibilities and outcomes are explored there, we pop down. And see, what we're going through is this process of expansion and exploration. It's like this. And all the conspiratorialists will have fun with this image. This will be good. This is why I've got this on the cover of my DVD, Our Journey in the Grand Deception. It's not that this image is a deception, okay? This image, for me, is reality. Now, whatever you make of this image is up to you. I just reckon this is the best one that explains what I'm trying to explain here to you. That's all it is, diagrammatic form. When we're up here and we're totally one and sanctified, we're here. When we start that journey down through the dimensions of the universe, we're here, everything becomes one, integrates into one. You start dividing yourself. And the frequency is really high. And the further we journey down, the further we journey into separation and expansion and fragmentation. The waveform gets bigger and slower and bigger and slower and slower and slower. And that's why the densest realities are at the bottom. The waveform is very large, very slow, and very dense. Okay? That's what that diagram represents for me. This is what I'm, diagrammatically, is what I'm sharing with you. And so we end up coming down through the dimensions of the universe because we're learning the construct of light. So we're exploring life. We are exploring all possibilities and outcomes. We're exhausting everything that life has to offer. And each one of these dimensional levels here. And then we get to here and we kind of put the brakes on a bit. Because the difference between life here, which is the realm that I call the higher self aspects, and here, the lower aspects of the universe, is a big difference. Like when you get through this void here, this thick universal membrane, the expressions of life there are so dramatic. So what we all did is it's like standing on the edge here. And we all stood there together and we went, right, you're going to do this for me here on this planetary system. You're going to play that role for me. You're going to play this role for me. So imagine the power of the consciousness it took to organise a cosmic journey, right? Now here there's a lot of aspects of yourself on this level already. When you come down here, you fragment even further. And the embodiments we have here have a single energetic centre, and the embodiments that we have here is the chakra body of the 7 chakras. Fragmentation, expansion. Now I've been to the 5th dimension many times, and I've manifested a body there. It has a single energetic centre in the middle of the chest. When you come down here and you get on all these galactic levels of being, 7 chakras. There are some beings here that have created a synthetic single energetic centre body. But you can tell it's synthetic by its